and welcome to DP2 the Brain. Your frontal cortex is thanking me. With me, I have this is our very first
Nice.
international episode. We have the Pimp Lim, William Lim. Would you like to go ahead
Yo,
and give us a deeper introduction for yourself?
what's good? I'm my actual name is William Lim, but they call me PimpLim. That's like my artist slash rapper name slash singer name slash producer name. So I produce music on the side. Currently, I'm in Singapore. I was in the States with Dugan. We went to college for 4 years, around 4 years, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And yeah, I mean, I got lost in the timeline a little bit, but yeah, so that's how we met. I've been friends ever since, been brothers ever since. Yeah,
Ooh.
that's that's
Now,
that's how I do it.
I'm gonna go straight on the music there because I find that
Hey,
quite
yes.
interesting.
Uh,
Um, I guess his base question: when did you start getting into it, and how did you start getting into it?
I've actually been in music like all my life. Like even when I started, cause I grew up in church, so like music has been the like a main thing. I used to sing in church and all this stuff. I played the piano too. I had piano lessons. I'm very blessed to have like free piano lessons from this very close friend or family friend of ours. So have like my foundation there, and then when I was like around 15 and 16, that's when I started to really produce music, or like started with FL Studios and all that stuff. And
Now, FL for those who aren't
yeah.
quite in the know, by FL Studios you mean?
Oh yeah, it's like a DAW, which is like a software where you make
What does
music.
FL
Yeah,
stand
record.
for?
Oh, it's Fruity Loops
Fruity
Studios.
Loops,
Yeah.
and um, that's as far as I understand, Fruity Loops is kind of the standard.
Yeah, it's usually that and a few others, which is like the main one. It depends on your style of how you like to record or make music, but yeah, FL Studios, which is it's my style. Yeah.
And when you say your style,
Mm.
just to kind of dig a little deeper on that, what I'm genuinely curious, what exactly, like, what makes
Uh-huh.
it different from another, from a different producing application?
For FL Studios, I think the interface, like not say simplicity, but the way I do my things, like where the plugins are at, where the master, like the mixing channels at, I think appeals to me like more because, for example, another one is called Ableton Live. That software is more for recording, so people that like play live music and they want to record it to the software, they will
Okay.
use Ableton Live more. Yeah, but you can use FL Studio too. But apparently Ableton is live is for more live music. Yeah.
And I think that's more now because you produce mostly in which, by the way, I'll be adding in a
Yeah.
bunch of these songs in post, and then all the links
Hey,
will be
sure,
down
man.
there in the description. So guys, make sure
Hey.
guys and girls and non-binary and everyone in between, make sure you
Hey.
go check out the Pimp Lim. Really good
Thank you.
instrumentals.
Thank you.
Honestly, I like to throw them on and just freestyle a little bit.
Hey, I know
Maybe
what you
maybe
mean.
I'll
Know
throw you
what
my
you mean.
bars. Maybe I can be your ghostwriter.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Uh,
uh,
anyway,
yeah.
so that's interesting. So yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
mostly in like the not explicitly trap beats, but more hip hop
Yeah.
rap style beats is what you produce.
Yeah, that's what I like to be a little more melodic with my beats. That's just naturally me. Even when I
Mm-hmm.
rap or sing, I do it more melodically, which is slightly different than current music because they usually have like a main melody and just like drums and that's it. So like a low
Very
bell.
percussion focused.
Yes, yes, which is a vibe too. Like I love it too. So it's not hating on them, but I prefer to be more melodic and different elements and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, I'm always yamming on them. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, like how long does it take? How long does it take to make a track?
Oh, okay.
Like if
For an
let's just say a
instru,
three
yeah,
minute, your average, your tracks are usually around 2 to 3 minutes.
yeah.
So let's just say an average length song.
So for an instrumental, if there's no vocals involved, it'll take roughly, I would say you can get it out in a few days. But for me, because I like to like fine tune everything, so it takes a little longer, maybe like 4 or 5 days. But you can mix and master an instrumental in around that time. But once you include vocals, oh, that's another like maybe a week plus, can go up to 2 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
because
it
then you got to go and
depends.
touch them up after the
Yeah,
fact, right?
yeah, you gotta touch up the vocals because vocals itself is in a whole like another like time of your time to like mix and master. So and to put it together with the track, yeah, it will take like a while. That's why some songs like from mainstream artists, they take like years to do it, or like maybe even a few months for like an EP or something like that. Yeah.
Well, you got
So
to be patient, like a bird of prey.
oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
But anyway,
Caw.
I'm kind of curious because I'm not particularly musically inclined. That's not necessarily where my
No,
inclinations
I
come
think
from. Um,
yeah.
but when it comes to that, I'm
Uh-huh.
kind of good with the beats and the percussion and that kind of stuff. But then it
Mm,
loses me on the melody. So, and I'm just
mm,
kind of genuinely curious, and I'm going to be talking to a couple of
mm.
other independent musicians. Kyle Holden for sure is coming
Hey,
up on
yes.
Monday, maybe.
Monday.
Um,
Nice.
but I'm just like, how does a song come together? Like, hold on,
Okay.
I'm trying to think
Yeah.
how exactly I want to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what comes to you first, the melody, the beat, and then do you kind of get a bunch of different pieces and then put them together, or do you go piece by piece, beat, melody,
Mm.
or do you kind of have some kind of ideas floating around and then you kind of this might go well with this, how like I don't know, just take me through the creative process in terms of how a song comes together from your mind to the computer.
So okay. So if I'm feeling I have a melody in my head, I usually play on the piano first. So like pull up FL keys, which is like a piano synthesizer, and then I'll just put the melody on the like write it down and then like loop it. And then if you like maybe you hear you like as a musician you hear like certain things like, oh, maybe this needs some strings, or like you need some like background like noises, like maybe like a trumpet or horn or bass, and then from that melody itself you would kind of hear it, like I can't really explain that feeling, but you hear it in your head, and then you just like sing, either you sing it out. Sometimes for like hooks for songs, I'll actually just like do sounds. So like for example, like maybe like na 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 da, 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 da. So something like that, just like no words, but you just make sounds, and then the words are like when you write it start coming later.
So
So
so when you put
yeah.
I'm just gonna hop in here real quick. So when you kind of get like you have a general idea of some kind of sound or some kind of melody, and
Yeah.
then you have a general idea, and then you just kind of start playing with it, almost like
Hmm.
a little bit of jazz, where you go a little high, you
Yeah.
go a little low, and you just
Yeah.
you just kind of hit the spectrums and see where inside each. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's it. So generally you start with melodies. That is,
Yes, I
that,
I start with melodies. Yeah,
see,
because
and
I feel, yeah, I
on
feel
the
like
opposite,
if
I do
you,
beats.
yeah, I know what I mean, they many producers do it many different ways, and it works
Yeah,
for many different people. Yeah,
yeah.
but for me, I'll go with melody first, cause for me, if I don't have a good melody, the rest of my song will be shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my mentality. Yeah, so a good melody, including of all aspects. So like every single element. And then I'll start with the drums. But you could be stuck sometimes. Like you don't know what. other instruments or sounds to put on, but you know it's missing. So I usually go to drums too, because the drums will keep you have a consistent like BPM, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a beats per minute.
Metronome.
Yeah, like a metronome. So once you hear, sometimes when you hear the percussions, then you will see, oh, okay, this will go well with this like vibe. You know what I mean?
So
Yeah.
you kind of use you bring in the beat after you work on the melody to
Mm.
act as a support and brace in certain areas. Is that kind of a
Yeah.
correct? Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, I mean, it's not something I do often, but
Mm-hmm.
my mind kind of works the opposite way, where I would
Mm-hmm.
use the beats, like I would use the percussion to create a foundation to then,
Mm.
but then I also would prefer simplistic um, melodies just because that's not
Mm.
exactly where um, my interests are a lot more in the percussion and then the last one I
Mm.
want to touch on, which is vocals. So
Mm.
in terms of when you write a song,
Yeah.
mm, kind of the same question as before. You know,
Mm.
are you Eminem where you have 10,000 lines written on a little scrabbly piece of paper, or do you just kind of sit down and hit 16 as you listen? Or like,
uh,
do you write do you write lyrics to go with songs, or do you write
mm.
lyrics and then when the right song comes along, you put them together?
Okay, so for certain beats, if I hear and I like it, I would start. I'll just write for the beat. I do have like stuff written down that doesn't have like any background music yet. But then sometimes when I hear a beat and I like, oh, this will go with this kind of lyrics, you know what I mean? And then okay, then I would start expanding on that. But I don't generally write down uh, before hearing a song. So I would definitely play like a beat first, and then I'll just write the lyrics or a hook. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you gotta
that's
kind of
how I.
feel the energy from the song to know what
Yeah.
like even if you know like kind of. And that's another thing, your
Mhm.
music, your
Yeah.
lyrics, they're not, you know, they
Mm.
have a little bit more meaning than some of
Yeah.
today's, average songs. Yo,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yo, shoot the blammer, make the money,
Hey,
smack the hoe. I
hey,
mean,
get the
whatever. I mean,
bag, shoot the
fuck,
ops.
I got
Yeah.
12-hour playlists full of nothing but that kind of
Hmm.
music. But
Yeah, I know what
um,
you mean. Know what you mean.
I mean, your lyrics have depth to them, and
Mm. Thank
so
you. Thank you.
it's like, especially when it comes to like, say, like a theme or like kind of an idea that you're,
Mm.
inside a lyric, you got kind of a
Mm.
theme or an idea that you're going. Like
Yeah.
how, I know this is a very abstract question, but like
Mm-hmm.
what in your mind makes you think like this, what makes you match the two? What makes you think that this
Mm.
melody and this beat are
Mm.
um a, a good medium for a theme? Like, you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah. So like, okay. So if it's like, let's say a hard trap song, like you wanna go straight like gangster style, like you're trying to like do so for those kind of beats. I'll usually go very simple on the hook because people want to hear your verses more. So you go like super in depth, all the wordplay with your verses, and then the hook can just be very simple, like 8 bar stuff. You know what I mean?
Hmm?
Like just maybe a one word or like repeating one word, some shit like that.
Hmm.
But if you want to go for like maybe more like Juice World vibe, where
Yeah.
he like a lot of love songs type of shit, heartbreaking sad songs, then
Anthems.
you can, yeah, some, so you can do on that kind of music, you can do both. Like you can have pretty decent verses and you go like very in depth with the hook, which has like a heavy meaning behind like the song.
Well,
So
I'm actually
yeah.
asking maybe even a bit more specifically than that.
Mm,
Like, let's say like you kind of have two, you got a couple. Obviously, you're a well-rounded person. You have more than a few ideals and such. So, like,
mm,
what makes Do you think that a song might be a vehicle for one idea, like one kind of I- idea
Mm-hmm.
or such, than another?
Okay, so
Less
when I
so, less
hear a
so in the
beat,
styling and more
yeah,
in terms of like the ideas, the
yeah.
themes.
So okay, whenever I hear a beat, first thing I would analyze how it makes me feel, like personally. So maybe like if it's a very romantic kind of like vibe, and then okay, maybe this will match this kind of lyrics. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So if it's like hitting 808s, like just like simple melody and got the percussion, got the bop, and then, okay, maybe this is like a hard trap song. Like we're gonna go gangster on this, you know. So that's the main difference. So like maybe a romantic song will have like very nice synthesizers, maybe a nice guitar loop. Um, or for like a sad song will get like a nice piano loop. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
usually
you just
those um, like factors. And for like a
you
hard
just
track,
gotta kind of feel the energy, basically. The energy and the theme very much have to be kind of working in tandem.
oh
So
yeah, for sure. Hmm.
yeah, I think that's very. I
As
mean, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah,
Because I thought.
especially
I mean, I think in
yeah.
other. I mean, not just music, of course, film, all
Hmm.
those other kind of things. I just find it interesting to choose. When you've got a lot. Most no, most creative people have more than one thing to say.
Mm.
So I'm always curious as to how they choose which medium matches best with which things. And I think you're probably right. And this is very abstract, so write this down and it won't help you at all. But you just got to feel the energy.
Yeah,
There's someone trying to say
yeah,
how to become an artist. Feel the
yeah.
energy.
No,
What does that mean?
no, you don't
But
like you don't like try too hard because like let's say a simple beat, right? You must know how it makes you feel in order to understand how others would feel when they listen to it. So when you're listening to a beat and you like bop in your head like shit, this like okay, and it's that simple, or you don't need to add another like other like stuff to make it good, then just use that, man. You don't got to like overcomplicated things. Make it keep it simple,
go with your instincts.
simple. Yeah, with my instincts. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I
Yeah.
think it's then important too. You got to kind of know
Mm.
yourself as well. You got to understand,
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
certain degree. You're not going to be a doctor of psychology, but you got to understand to
Yeah.
a certain degree when something's making you bop a certain way. You kind of take
Yeah.
a step. I wonder why that is, and then
Hmm.
that kind of. No, that's all very interesting.
Yeah.
I got a couple extra kind of questions to ask you about the music. We already talked
I.
about
Mm.
the FL Studios. But
Yeah.
what other kind of if someone's looking to get into this kind of game, what other kind of like
Mm.
equipment or software, what other things,
Um.
for lack of better words, what do you use? What do you find is best?
So, okay. Definitely, if you're trying to produce music, uh, so if you're an artist, I think you really don't need that much equipment. Maybe just a mic, because you'll probably get beats from your producers or other producers. But if you're looking to become a
Yeah, let's
producer,
talk producing.
producing, so I'll definitely say invest in headphones. For sure, headphones like your hearing aid is like the number one thing. Um, and also invest in a software, which FL Studios, the one I have is around $200, which is the producer edition. I'll definitely say invest in that because if you want to make this a legitimate career in the future, if you use like a cracked version or like those you download from like Pirates Bay or something, that it may come back to haunt you because FL Studios can
In more
take it
ways
down.
than one, that would come back to haunt
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
if
Well,
you,
I
yeah,
was lucky enough to get, which I had mentioned, my friend
uh,
Investini, who was on episode one of the
a,
podcast. We had some interesting
uh,
talks, as we always do. He's a very
mhm.
interesting person. I think you two would hit it off well. But he loaned
Oh,
me
for sure, for sure.
a 1080p camera, which
Ooh,
before I was
okay.
360p. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Total offshoot
Upgraded.
random, but
No, you're
so
good. You're good.
I was making a YouTube playlist for a bunch of
Uh-huh.
songs that I'd like to know the words to for karaoke or whatever. I want
I
to have it
know.
in
I
my
know what
back
you mean.
pocket in case Dugan gets a little swifty and wants to impress the ladies at
Hey.
karaoke night.
Oh, hey.
But
Who knows,
anyway,
man? Yeah, you come in
so
handy.
but a lot of the song, a bunch of some of the songs I was adding, they kind of came
uh,
out in that area like right when YouTube began. So most of
uh,
the videos I found were like uploaded in 2010 and they were in like
ooh.
140p, and I'm just like, the good old days,
Good old
the
days.
good old
Good old
days.
pixels.
Back in the days when YouTube
Pixelated.
was literally just like, have you seen this thing? No, I haven't. I don't know. It was
A
so
bunch of
vague, and
HTML. Yeah.
Web 1.0, as it's dubbed, is
Yeah.
so
It's grown, man.
interesting.
Yeah.
Dial
YouTube
up
has grown.
internet and just like,
Mm-hmm.
Mom, get off the phone and watch some porn. Well, I mean, back then, porn was scrolling down the page and it loaded
yeah.
pixel
Loads so
by
slow,
pixel.
bro. Yeah. On your flip phone, you're like,
Not that I was looking at such things at those ages. I would
yeah. I
only
know
and
what you're
I would
talking about.
never lie on the "Are you 18" pop up. Those are legally binding.
Yeah. That's funny, man. You should try stand up, bro. I think you'll be very good at stand up.
That is something. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely that is something I want to do. Obviously, this
Mm-hmm.
time in the world is not a great time to be
True.
popping up
True.
on that. But up in April, I'm gonna have
Mm.
the motherfucking man who wrote the motherfucking book, J.J. Johnson, on the
Ooh.
podcast. Yes, he does stand up now.
Damn.
Well, he
Really?
was doing it before COVID.
Ah.
And now one other interesting question I
Mm-hmm.
had. Sampling. Do you do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sampling in you? Do you take samples
Mm-hmm.
from other songs? And
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
kind of the question or the controversy around sampling is, when it comes to when do you need to give credit and when, well, I mean, especially, um, at the, no offense, at the bigger levels, like that's, majority of an album's budget will be for samples.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then the question is kind of on the independent level, you're not
Mm-hmm.
making much to any money from your production at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't think anything you're sampling could reasonably expect. But then there's also the argument that under fair use, you're
Mm-hmm.
being transformative to the sample. So
Mm-hmm.
really, the original samplee, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have any right to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's a so that's kind of the debate, if you will. So okay, I guess
Mm-hmm.
I would ask for how do you feel about that, both as as an artist who could
Mm-hmm.
have your work sampled, and as an
Mm-hmm.
artist who does work where you do sample others. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
curious as to what you think about that debate.
I think sampling is done by almost everyone because, like, whether you have a melody in your head or you take like a melody from someone else, it's still sampling because you get inspired from other artists to have that melody in your head. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone's
yeah,
arguing that sampling in itself is bad. It's just a question
yeah,
of when is
fair
credit
use.
due, or I
Yeah.
think I think the real complex question is when
Mhm.
is financial compensation appropriate?
Oh
Because
yeah.
that's
So
for these albums they are paying. That's what they're paying tons of money for is sampling.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think that line is I don't know.
Mhm.
Just what do you think in terms of when financial compensation comes in play, especially
Uh-huh.
because in a lot of you're taking a sample and you are
Mhm.
inherently transforming it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think if you do sample from someone, you should definitely pay them because they put in the work to produce that or put it in writing at least and have it patented or copyrighted or whatever. So if you do use a sample from someone that has that, and you should definitely pay them because that's how an artist would earn their money. Because we as like independent artists, we don't get monthly paychecks. We don't get stable income from what we love to do. So I think that's one of the ways we should be compensated, especially from big labels that producing albums from big artists. Like you can pay people with samples. Come on.
Yeah, and I think
So
what you would agree on there is that there's kind of a
mhm,
distinction there where
yeah.
if Jay-Z at Rockefeller wants to use your beat, he
Mhm.
can throw you a couple Bitcoin. Um,
Yeah,
but
I would be happy if they could take that.
if I'm just fucking around on the mixing and I want to sample some of your
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
you wouldn't expect, you
yeah.
don't expect, you only expect financial compensation if the person is using it
Mhm.
to make financial. Is
Yes,
that a fair
yes,
assessment?
yes.
So
That's
it's
very
not
fair.
necessarily the
Yeah.
use itself, it's
Mhm.
the financial gain from it. So you don't mind,
Yeah.
like, if other independents,
Hmm.
as long as they're not making money off it,
Yeah.
you wouldn't care if they just sampled whatever.
Yeah.
But
I
if
mean,
they
yeah.
start making money on this, and this
Yeah.
is a conversation we kind of
Hmm.
will have had,
Hmm. Yeah.
because I want to use your music on some, like, my games and stuff like
Yeah.
that, where
Hmm.
these things aren't going to be making any money. But if I throw it up on a game website or something and I start making a little ad revenue, absolutely, first thing I do is cut you in whatever fair percent that is. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. And
So,
then we'll get, yeah, then at that point, then we can get down to business, talk the numbers, all that stuff. You know what I mean? But if,
but I think
yeah,
because some people who, like, on the very extreme side of that argument are like,
yeah.
independent, even even people who aren't making money should have to pay for samples. I don't,
Okay.
you know,
Um,
I don't
I
necessarily
guess,
agree with. I think it should be up to
yes.
the artist who
Yeah.
makes the music at the end. But at
Yes.
in the internet age,
Mm.
how do you, like, police that in any way? How do you stop people from
Whoa.
sampling for footage?
That's
You can't.
That's definitely very hard because you can't. The thing is, you
Yeah.
really can't police it or to the T. You know what I mean? Like,
But if they're
oh,
making
if
money from it, then you can. Once they
yeah,
start making money, then
yeah, of
the
course,
samplee has a,
yeah,
but the that's, some of the,
yeah,
the big record labels or whatever. They're like, well,
mm,
if you want to mess around and make a CD for your friends and family and you want to sample
mm.
Jay-Z, you got to pay for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think that is fair. Just because it's not he's not getting monetary gain, like you said. So once you start gaining like financial, getting some finance from your beats that you sampled from others, then yeah, of course the other people should be compensated because they also made it. Like I do sample too, um,
No, of
but
course.
I
I
usually
mean,
get
yeah,
it.
I don't think anyone's
Yeah,
arguing that
yeah.
sampling for the music itself. I don't know. It's just I don't. I mean, and I generally tend to trend in the ways of democratizing,
Mm,
decentralizing things, and big corporations are not my friends. Big governments are not
mhm.
my friends either. Um,
Yeah,
but coming from, like, a free market kind of argument, I don't think it's
mhm,
completely baseless. If
mhm,
Rockefeller wanted to, put, like, a little store up, and it's like, hey, you want to buy these to be
mhm.
able to use them, whatever.
Yeah,
It is there at the end of the day. It's their content.
yeah,
um but then there's also the question of fair use, being
mhm,
transformative. So then I think it gets kind of sticky there. So I think
mhm.
kind of the standard you described
Yeah,
is kind of the best for now. If you're making
yeah,
money, you pay money. If you're not,
yeah,
you don't. But you should always, and I know you'll agree with this, whether
yeah.
you are making money, financial, whatever,
Mhm.
always give credit. Always,
Oh yeah,
always,
hundred
always
percent. Yeah,
give
100%. Yeah,
more credit than you could possibly need. Don't
yeah.
ever give
That's
off, don't ever try to give the
yeah.
impression that someone else's. I mean, if you don't explicitly give credit for a piece of external content, it will
Mm-hmm.
be assumed that it is yours. And
Yes. Yeah.
that is downright negligence if you don't give credit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any art, any work in general,
Yeah.
you gotta give credit.
Yeah.
Whether there's money changing hands or not.
Mm.
Um,
That's the least you can do.
that's just
If
human
you, yeah,
decency at least.
yeah,
But
the
in
least you
terms of
can
like
do
honesty, yeah.
when you are using something for free. So like, there are artists out there that just give out free loops to producers, whoever that wants them, and it's royalty free, so you don't have to pay for them, uh, and they don't even require you to credit them actually. But I still do for some of my beats
Well,
that I
I think you
sample.
should,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, definitely you should. That's the least you can do for an artist is to give them exposure, or even when you like collab with another artist, yeah, just shout them out. I think that's the least you can do, man. And
But on the flip
yeah,
side, exposure and shout outs are not a replacement for financial compensation.
oh yeah, for
I see
sure.
that
If you're earning
there's a
money,
whole Reddit I
yeah,
follow about people being like,
yes,
"Hey, I'll pay you in exposure," and they've got like 50 followers.
yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, that's
That's
not
bullshit.
a replacement for sure.
That's
If you're gaining money, then don't. Yeah, exposure and shit is additional to what you should give, the fair financial cut from what you're earning. So yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Now I'm curious because you started producing, you were producing while you were over here in the States for a while, and then now you've
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
back in Singapore producing. So I'm just curious, as much as you can gauge. I know, given current geopolitical conditions,
Hmm.
you've been shut inside your home and such, so you
Yeah.
might not have a great. But as best you can,
Hmm.
what's your takeaway on like the music production scene, if you will, like regionally speaking, music production in where you're at in Singapore
Hmm.
versus where when you were here in the States,
Yeah.
just in terms of like, I don't know, just generally what the producing culture differences there,
Differences. I don't
or I
think
guess
there'll be.
similarities.
Yeah. I think yeah, similarity wise, everyone's tries to do their own beats. Like even I'm friends with a local artist here, which is he's a decent following. He's part of Universal Music, which is like I think his label. And
He's an
he
artist.
yeah, he's a rapper. So
Okay.
pretty decent, like down to earth guys. I wouldn't say there are much differences because everyone works internationally now, and you pretty much like get exposed to a lot of music from different areas. So I think okay, the main difference could be like the music or like the artistic like uh, culture here, or like there is a certain tight knit group, because there's very few people here in Singapore that does like art, because of the culture differences. People
Mm-hmm.
here are more like academically inclined, so they want like the generic stuff, like you want to be a doctor, lawyer, all this stuff, get a
Yeah.
full-time job, and so anything like out of that norm will be like, oh, like no way, you know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
instantly get
The
that.
creative is a bit more respected in the States, in your
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. And it's like the government. If you go through like government agencies, they are more controlled. They are more censored. So the people that are not, or they're part of other labels that are more creative, like let you do whatever you want kind of stuff. They are the artists that would stand out more and are getting
Yeah.
pushed more now. So it depends like where you go. Like, are you going through like a government agency, or you like a more international agency? Um,
What about the like the music itself? I mean,
mhm.
obviously there's different musical culture in the two places,
Yeah.
but so like how does that kind of play out in terms of um like the specifics? More 808s, less 808s. I don't know, can I break that down for me?
Uh, it yeah, it's a very like because there's a lot of different other musics here. So if you're going specifically like trap, the recent one that just dropped like by Young Raja, he released like a very trappy vibe. So it's like very trippy, trappy vibe. So if you're going that route, Their 808s are also, it's like very hip hop culture, like very what's the similarity to the new age?
So,
Uh,
so would you say similar to American rap
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's very
in its
heavily
sound?
inspired. Yeah, in the sound, very heavily inspired. But if you go to like traditional like Chinese culture, they'll have that Chinese EDM, which is like a totally different EDM style from normal EDM or American style. Uh, and then if you go rock, it's a different thing. Like there's a Malay rock, which is a different
I'm
sound
saying
in
even
itself.
inside the genre of like hip hop, and because you'll
Oh yeah.
have you got your harder stuff, and then like you were saying before, kind of your more Juice World stuff. And do you
Yeah,
find that
yeah.
like different instruments are more prevalent to
Mhm.
be used in melodies and such?
Yeah,
Like
I would think so.
different
Yeah.
strings are different strings or whatnot more popular
Mhm.
in Singapore than they are in the States, or vice versa?
Uh, I would say it's like it depends on the artist too, because I've
Sure.
heard stuff that are more melodious here, and also stuff that are very trappy, similar to America actually. So it's very heavily inspired by the hip hop. The hip hop culture here is like gaining more traction than before. I think, yeah, because of the Asian like scene, like the American scene, sorry, that they inspired. So like a lot of Asian rappers are coming up and actually going to America too, like 88 Rising. Like they are one of the first Asian like labels.
Hmm.
So yeah, we in here we have Def Jam, which is like a Southeast Asia label. They have a lot of local like Malaysian artists, Thai artists, Vietnam artists, and they are pretty good. Like they can be like up there with the American artists, I would say.
So
The
I mean,
sound and
I
everything.
guess I would say then. So would you agree? Generally speaking, there's not huge differences between the
Yeah.
American hip hop production scene and the
Mm-hmm.
Singaporean, because it's just
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with creatives,
Mm-hmm.
it is just so contextual and based on the individual that there's not a
Yeah.
whole lot of generalities to be drawn in general, let alone to
Mm-hmm.
contrast. Would you say that's
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah. And but there are also like differences in like language. So people would
Of
rap in
course.
their own language
Yeah.
and mix their own language in with English, and they talk about different stuff like their own personal experiences in Singapore or wherever they are at. So I think that's the difference. I think the main difference.
Well, and I think that's stuff, that's all very good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like I
Mm.
said, I have 12-hour playlists of music that talk about the same thing and nothing at the same time.
Oh yeah,
And
man.
more, the
Yeah.
more unique, someone I plug a ton,
Mm.
may or may not have heard of him. He's called Bazanji. Um,
Sanji, no,
I
never
don't know.
heard of him.
He's maybe a couple years older than us. He's
Uh,
in the States, but he's like
mm,
immigrated from Iran or something like that. I don't know, but he's got
mm,
um I think he might be kind of more towards your style. He's
mm,
got a little bit of there's a little bit of hardness and bite to it, but it's also very
mm.
melodic and then the lyrics. I don't know. Yeah, I'll link him to you later. He's got a lot
Hey,
of good stuff, I think.
sure, for sure.
Um, but anyway, so
Mm.
kind of pivoting a bit from the music, but not completely. I saw recently you have started a new TikTok account.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, talk to me about
that's the
that.
thing. That's actually started just for like banter and whatever like stupid shit we do. So like whatever things that I find funny or like makes me like laugh, I'll just post it on there. So it's not really for like to gain like traction or views or whatever. It's just like for me to look back on. It's like, oh, this kind of,
Sounds like my Twitter
yeah,
account. I'm just throwing out my
yeah,
absolute butt fuck crazy nonsense ideas that are coming to my head.
yeah.
I decentralized pooping or whatever. I'll edit that
Yeah,
out. That's
so
gross.
but yeah, that's like whatever like banter me and my friends have like, or like moments we capture, so
So
it's kind of for
that's
that.
on the
Yeah,
fucks around.
yeah.
Very cool. Very
So
cool.
that's
Um,
that's the TikTok thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now I have this list of
Mm-hmm.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to have guests, I like to have them pick their own, but I don't like
Mm-hmm.
repeats. So,
Okay, sure.
um, number 1 through
Mm-hmm.
49, 48, but you cannot pick 32 and you
Mm-hmm.
cannot pick 7.
Okay. So you want me to pick a number?
Yes, please do.
I'll pick 13.
Oh, hey, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, ha, 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 ha. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, so as we see science naturally evolve and such, we're going to start
Mm-hmm.
and we're already seeing rudimentary versions of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Gene editing, such as
Oh,
CRISPR,
okay. Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit further down the road, any of you who are Deus Ex fans, the game,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, cyber augment, computerized augmentations of humans.
Mm-hmm. Mm,
I
okay.
think, I mean, and especially, I don't know how much you follow, if you're familiar with
Mm.
Neuralink, Elon Musk's Neuralink project.
Not
Um,
really.
but he
The
wants to,
link
we're gonna
brains.
put, we're gonna, put computer chip in the brain that
Uh-huh.
expands the bandwidth of our mind.
Oh
Um,
shit.
I don't want to go too deep into the Neuralink
Yeah, yeah. I know what you
rabbit
mean.
hole.
Yeah.
There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of reading to do, and
Tons.
that's in
Mm-hmm.
itself a debate. But I think that's kind of the debate I want to touch on. Which
Mm-hmm.
so let's assume that we continue to progress and we get to this point where gene editing
Mm-hmm.
and augmentation, if you will, is
Mm-hmm.
common practice, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, assuming things continue, it's going to be based on
Mm-hmm.
financial capacity.
Yes. Yeah.
So the rich person can buy a better brain. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get to a
Yeah.
place where people with more money, they can buy
Mm-hmm.
genetic and just buy
Upgrades.
themselves being better than
Yeah.
the normal person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of curious what how you think, just generally your thoughts on that idea, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then B, whether or not it's generally going to be a good or bad thing.
Oh, okay. My idea on it, I feel like it's really inevitable. Like we progress to this stage because, but I don't think we should immediately reject it just because we haven't seen what it could do yet. You know what I mean? And naturally, as a species, we're gonna evolve. Like we've been evolving for the past, like accelerating our evolvement in probably the past 20 years, right? We went from like flip phones to straight up I like touch phones in a matter of like 10 years or so. Like yeah,
Exponential,
10 years or so.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it helped like a lot of people in many different ways. Whether it's good or bad, I think everything new or every new thing that we don't understand would come with good and bad. Like it can be used for bad. Like let's say like augmentation, right? If augmenting your DNA to get rid of like diseases or in your family history or something like that, that's a good thing. We want to
Mm-hmm.
deal with all this. But then maybe the flip side, the bad thing is people live longer, and then maybe we have like resources depleting, and we might
Okay, yeah,
have
population. That's a whole, yeah.
population is a whole thing. Yeah,
Population resources. That's a whole another
yeah,
can of worms. I'm not trying to put on the sloppy Joe right now.
yeah. So I mean, that's an
Um,
example. People can augment stuff. Like it can be used for good and bad. Like as like everything. It's not you can't say like one thing is like absolutely good or absolutely bad.
well, yeah, of course.
So yeah, so for
But
me
okay,
it's
maybe
yeah.
to rephrase it a little bit to kind of
Mm-hmm.
dig at it a little bit more. So we get, let's say we get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we have two classes, and I'm using the word
Mm-hmm.
classes very lightly because it has a
Yes.
lot of
Yeah.
history to it. The word class.
Yes. Yeah.
Two basically different classes of humans, where we have
Mm-hmm.
god tier humans and
Mm,
normal humans,
mm, yeah.
where people who have
Mm-hmm.
lots of money are 8 feet tall, live 300 years, have
Mm-hmm.
supercomputer brains, and all the rest of us are just like normal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to hit both sides of the argument, and I want to see where you fall in
Mm-hmm.
between on them.
Okay.
It's good
Mm-hmm.
because it's not inherently making the rest of the people any worse, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
making better. So it's a net positive. And the
Mm-hmm.
things that people will be able to accomplish with said augmentations or improvements,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they can do things that will then turn around and improve life for everyone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of hitting the argument on accumulation of vast wealth. And I think,
Yes.
not
Yes.
to go too much off on a tangent, I think there's
Mm-hmm.
distinction there between an Elon Musk, who, whatever, call me out all you want, I'm a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
stan,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeff Bezos. What's Jeff Bezos do with his money? He,
Mm-hmm.
he, he bought a propaganda newspaper in the Washington Post, and he
Mm-hmm.
lobbies and crushes unions and makes his drivers pee and poop in the van.
Oh wow. Nice.
There was an internal memo that got leaked. It was basically like, drivers, please
Mm-hmm.
stop pooping in the van. And it's like, well, they're pooping in the van because if they get out, you fire them.
Yeah.
Like, you stepped 5 feet from your van, you're fired. Anyway,
Fire. Yeah.
anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but then of course the other side of it, which
Mm-hmm.
I think the more natural argument that most people would come
Mm-hmm.
to is to have two separate classes of people, especially when the divider will
Mm-hmm.
explicitly be
Yeah.
financial. It,
Yes.
it, it
Yes.
will be,
Mm,
unless there's
yeah.
some kind of topsy-turvy
Mm-hmm.
re-evaluation of human value versus financial
Yeah.
value, assuming we keep
Yeah.
financial value as the most important thing in the universe, which we will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The divide will purely be financial.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and again, has a lot of rings of even current, higher education, where the
Mm-hmm.
distinction between people is money and nothing more, nothing less. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
where you, um, that's slightly different because the idea of going to higher education and making yourself better is a lot more theoretical than,
Yes. Yeah.
but augmentation and such, that's
Mm-hmm.
fairly literal. So when it
Yeah.
comes to that, um, I don't know. How do we balance fairness, and how
Mm-hmm.
important is it that people be generally equal, and like, is society worse off for having people who are inherently
Mm-hmm.
better? And I'm using better very loosely,
Like
but
enhance. Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah. In a
in
way,
turn,
right?
assuming application and execution
Mm-hmm.
are good,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be hard to argue that an enhanced person is not
Mm-hmm.
inherently better,
Yeah.
more effective in some form, because if
Mm-hmm.
not, then why'd you be getting the enhancement? So
Yeah.
is it immoral to have one class of people who can make themselves,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on maybe the morality of that division, and kind of how I was saying the spectrum of progress versus um, equally distributing progress?
Um, I feel like equality would never be a thing just because whatever we do, like even now, people are still like dividing each other based on whatever race, like political parties. So I think as humans will naturally like find that differences. So if we go
But I'd
to
argue
the
those
next,
differences are
yeah,
arbitrary, and the differences we're talking about are what happens when you have non-arbitrary differences between groups of people.
yeah. So that's like, see, that's like a new thing, right? That we haven't like touched on before or even explored before. So now that that I think will introduce like a new form of whatever, like legislation or like ruling to like prevent, to make it more equal in a sense. But I think in the long run, I think it will be good for us just because these so-called enhanced humans, if they're using their enhancements for like the progress of human race, then go for it, man. I don't think like someone being more enhanced or more successful than me would hurt me in a sense. They could be financially better, they could have a better life, but I can work on myself to have that too if I wanted to. I wouldn't say like uh,
So
it's
if I will,
unequal. Yeah,
there's an expression,
yeah,
a rising tide lifts all boats. And
yeah,
that's kind of more on the conservative or libertarian side of economics.
yeah.
More progressives would say, we got to
Mhm.
tax heavily to redistribute. You're
Yeah.
more in the camp that, you know,
Hmm.
if not, one person's win is not inherently another person's loss.
Yes, yeah. Like
Interesting.
if we don't have, I mean, we've had enhanced humans throughout our whole
You
like
can argue there's different
yeah,
levels and factors of enhancement, be it
yeah,
healthy eating or,
yeah,
therapists or,
yes,
whatever that everything costs money. So improving
yeah,
yourself costs money. So inherently people with more money have a better chance of improving themselves.
yeah.
And I
So
don't think that's
true.
inherently immoral, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's immoral. It's like if you want those enhancements, you like I necessarily wouldn't want to, but if you want to, then earn more money, get that shit. Like people having those enhancements would not stop you from having those enhancements too. So we've had enhanced humans all throughout our like generations. Like if we don't have people like Einstein or Elon Musk, like we wouldn't have all these progressions or like benefits we have right now in our lives. So I think I wouldn't be against like having enhanced humans through augmentation, or just to, if they use it for good, then hey, I'm all for it,
Very
man.
interesting. And I
Yeah.
think one medium where this question has kind of been touched, and I think it's one of the more interesting
Mhm.
way,
Yeah.
superhero stories when they talk about
Oh.
superheroes and especially oh gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank, or
Mm.
kind of a different version of it that was very season one of Legend of
Mm.
Korra. I think that's
Oh,
an
okay.
excellent version, kind of a similar
Mm.
debate that we're having here, where one group of people has some kind
Mm.
of inherent natural, it's in this case it's natural and not financial, but
Mm.
you know, and I think that season did a great job. Obviously, in the end, Amon was the villain, and he was a bender. He didn't actually believe, but like the argument they were making themselves, it was not is easy. It wasn't easy black and white. It wasn't. They weren't the
Mm.
Fire Nation. They had a point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's just, I mean, of course, it's one of those questions that has no right or wrong.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but questions like that, I think, are the most important ones. And we get too focused on questions with right and wrong answers,
Mm.
and we lose the value of asking questions, even if we can't
Yeah.
find an answer to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one last thing I'll touch on here. We've been going for it's been a
Hey.
good run here.
Hey.
And I thought
No
I'd be a
problem,
little bit
man.
more tired than I was, but we're going strong. Kind of branching off that question then,
Mm.
because I heard you mentioned you said you wouldn't. That's not something you would be interested in doing that to yourself.
Um. Okay, so it depends.
Okay,
If
go ahead,
like,
break it down.
yeah, if I'm facing like a life-threatening disease or some stuff like
Okay,
that, then I'll definitely get enhancement. Or if I needed that enhancement to reach certain goals, you know what I mean? So maybe have like
well, okay, well
personally like,
that's a bit broad. What if your goal
yeah,
is to go rob that dude? Hey, give me an enhancement to be
yeah. So
super strong so I
that's
can go rob that
yeah.
dude.
So that's the bad side of like the argument,
Yeah,
which I mean it will happen. It's you can't stop that. It's inevitable.
yeah.
um, like throughout history, people have
Jest.
been using all these
I
progress for
jest.
bad. You know what I
I
mean?
jest.
So yeah, so maybe like maybe I wanted like enhanced like more time to produce like music. Maybe I need a bigger capacity to do that. So yeah, why not? I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
okay.
opposed to new ideas for sure. Yeah.
All right, interesting. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
and kind of following into this final question, which is
Mm.
maybe the deepest of it all, where some
Hey.
people, well, the people who would not do it on principle are going to
Mm.
be the people who say because then you're not. human anymore, right? That's going to be the main
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah.
And let's have the
Mm-hmm.
question with no answer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
at what point do you stop being human?
Ooh.
There's
Wow.
not parable, but there's a saying: if you
Mm.
have Abe Lincoln's axe, and you replace
Mm-hmm.
the axe handle, and then
Yeah.
later you replace the head of the axe, is it
Mm-hmm.
still Abe Lincoln's
To an
axe?
X. A.
So the question is, so we've got people, we start gene editing, and from
Mm-hmm.
before birth, you have parents editing you,
Mm-hmm.
Build a Bear Workshop,
Eye color.
Build a
Yeah.
Bear.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to get your take on that.
Um, I think it depends. Like, there's different definitions of being human, right? You have like models that have breast implants, have implants in their face, and to them, that's being human.
Right.
That's like their plastic version of themselves is what they truly identify themselves as being human.
I
So
think that's a good parallel to this question. But
yeah,
continue.
so I guess you stop being human when you no longer exist. I guess you know what I mean. I don't think having enhancements to your bodies would inherently make you inhuman, because we already have that. We have metal plates replacing our like broken bones or something. That's basically an enhancement. So
Okay, but let me just say,
yeah,
hypothetically, for the sake of the question, we
yeah,
get to a point where someone is literally 99%
mm-hmm,
artificial matter.
mm-hmm,
Let's say
mm-hmm.
we'll base it off of what their matter is actually made out of. Let's say that they're
Okay,
95% artificial, or excuse me,
mm-hmm,
99% artificial, and there's only one
mm-hmm,
percent of their human matter left. You
mm-hmm.
know, is that still a human because they've got a pinky toe? Is a robot with a human
True.
pinky toe a pinky, or is a human?
Mm,
And does the fact
yeah.
that the robot used to be a human in transition
Mm,
change the answer to
mm,
that question?
mm. I think yeah, it could be also like argued that like maybe staying human would be having emotions, I guess, right? Like when you're still able to feel like emotion, sadness, all this. I think that's what yeah, that would make us more human than an artificial
That's
like
kind
robot,
of that's kind
right?
of your threshold. So,
Yeah,
okay, well, I guess a clarifying question is that so there's a
yeah.
point in this
Mm-hmm,
augmentation gene editing. There is
mm-hmm.
there's a point where you kind of cross the threshold from being human to not human.
Yeah.
You can hit
Okay,
that
so that
point.
I guess
You
yeah, I
would you
guess
would
that
agree
point for
that you
me,
can hit a point
yeah.
of being human no more. That is
Oh
possible.
yeah. I
Okay,
think
so
yeah,
then so
for
then
sure,
we just
yeah.
debate where the line is. Some people would say there is
Okay,
no
so
line.
yeah, I guess for me it's yeah when you can't feel emotions or you can't like feel empathy. Um, I think that's when you cross the line of like just being a like a robot.
And
Yeah.
of course, that's at this point not something you can
Mm,
really measure quantitate. I mean, and it's the same
yes. Yeah.
question about animals, and they have tests for sentience levels of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think what you're kind of talking about is I don't know, like a similar kind of concept where
Yeah.
you just have to see to what level are those kind
Mm,
of um, thoughts or whatnot being
mm,
represented.
yeah.
I know one that they use for gorillas. It's called like the mirror test, where they get the
Mm.
gorilla to realize that the gorilla in the mirror is themselves.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and there, I mean, and I'm no zoologist, but there's
Mm.
there's different levels of sentience, and
Oh, of
I
course.
think very
Yeah.
interestingly, um,
Mm.
where the level of sentience and how okay we are with eating something. I don't think those are always
Ah,
completely in tune.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're a bit. I think humans are a bit arbitrary on what we decide is okay to eat and not
Yes.
okay to eat. But
Yeah.
well, and
True. True.
then we decided what was okay to eat, and then we spent
Mm.
80 years pumping them full of steroids, and that's
Oh
bad.
yeah.
That's bad.
Mm.
We're talking about genetic improvements and stuff that are inherently good.
Mm.
Those are
Yeah.
bad improvements. We're not talking about that.
Yes.
We already got
Yes.
that stuff. We're talking about the good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Because
You know, we,
that will have side effects and later on will have like
yeah.
Yeah.
But for the
Lot
sake of
more
the
shit.
discussion, we're talking assuming execution is
Mm-hmm.
good, and there's
Good.
no obviously if you're doing gene editing and there's a chance that it like fucks stuff up and turns you into a fucking Cronenberg
Yeah. I
monster.
mean, yeah.
Oh, we Cronenberg up the world, Morty. You know, we're not lick
Kind of
potion
hot.
number 9ing over here, but assuming that the application is effective.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I would say, yeah, if let's say you're 95% robot, right? But that remaining 5%, you're still able to like feel emotion, have empathy, have instinct, then I think you're still human. For me, that the percentage doesn't matter. It's just that that line is not crossed, I guess, for me. Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's I think, well, most people probably don't think too much about this, but I like to put them on the spot. I think that
Yeah.
would probably be where a lot of people would kind of end up. They would kind of end up in a similar spot as well, where if the question, the same thing we do with animals, where it's a question of sentience and emotional awareness, and I think majority of people, some more scientific minded, might want to quantify it by mass amount or by specific organ. If you got the brain, you're still human, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think that's general.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not gonna have you answer this one because I want to leave it up food for thought for you and everyone else. We got
Hey, sure,
we got
sure.
to think when we're on the pooper, so I'll
Uh-huh.
give you all a little bit of food for thought. We talk about sentience, and it kind of rolls into kind of where we once again are having to qualify the question we're asking, where in the discussion in generally it's common belief, AI, artificial life, whatever, however you want to phrase that, is inherently not sentient, incapable of emotion, feeling, all that jazz, blah blah blah. And I think for majority of for the majority of the argument, I would generally you gotta agree. But I think there is a question of, is that in inherent truth? And I don't know if it's as inherent of a truth as we like to think it is, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's one of those it's a variable that kind of inherently taints the question that I asked you. So I guess I kind of asked you a bit of a trick question because I didn't qualify it, assuming that AI and robots, if we want to call them that, are incapable of sentience. And I haven't played this game. I know there's a game called oh gosh, it's one of those David Cage like interactive story games, but it's about kind of like iRobot. If you've seen iRobot with Will Smith, very similar questions to that, where we get robots that are so advanced, the line between human and the line that you're using of sentience and emotional intelligence is a good ruler if it is in fact a ruler. But if and once again another tangent, Eric Weinstein used the expression a wood ruler versus a rubber ruler. Is it a wood ruler or is it a rubber ruler?
True.
How hard of a border is sentience from we're getting way into the deep end of like
Sentient from like
what
a
is to be
trained
alive.
sentient.
What is to be alive? What makes our sentience more sentient than the sentience of the pigs or the plants or the computer? This dude, hey, fuck you, computer, you suck. Whatever. He's not gonna slap me in the face. But I mean, especially as you get more and more advanced, and I don't know. It's a debate, I think, and I'll let people think about it. So this will be uploaded along with all the other backlogged episodes on the channel launch on April 2nd, because we are DP2daBrain, and we are coming to a frontal cortex near you. PimpLim, last word. What's on your mind?
Last words. Everyone just stay healthy, stay safe, and don't do drugs.
Well, okay, we're gonna have to probably do some editing on that statement. But anyway, all right, DP to the brain. Thanks, Will.
Hey,
We'll try to
all
have you
right,
on
man.
again soon.